But I think a team that's future does look really bright is the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, and they put a nice whooping on the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs. I think 28
Mm-hmm.
nothing after the first quarter. Got a little
Yeah, yeah,
dicey there. Got a little dicey there towards the end, but
yeah. I think at one point they closed the gap to 21
yeah,
points. So,
yeah,
but I said this pre-draft or not pre-draft, pre-show, but I am very familiar with all of these players except for one. Tony Fields out of West Virginia is a guy that I have not heard of.
yeah.
But Greg Newsome was the best defensive back in the Big Ten last year.
hmm
Jeremiah Usu-Kormoa, I mean, top 3 linebacker.
Yeah, got him late second round.
Yeah, late second round. Anthony Schwartz is a huge wide receiver out of Auburn that apparently ran like a 4.31. I think he's 6'5", ran a 4.31.
That's huge. Holy cow.
James Hudson is a talented offensive tackle out of Cincinnati who sadly got thrown out against Georgia, but was having a good performance against Azeez Ojulari and the rest of the Georgia defensive line until that point. Tommy Togiai was a guy who actually kind of gave some of Alabama's front 5 fits in that national championship game. Richard LeCount is a very fast safety out of Georgia. And then Demetric Felton is a Swiss Army knife out of the backfield. He can play slot receiver and running back.
Yeah,
Now that I really sit down and look at it, I think the Browns might have had the best draft of any team. I'm going to go ahead and just say I give this an A+, because they have guys. One, it's a diverse draft. I don't think they repeated any position across all 8 of their picks.
yep.
And they got picks of need, and I think they built depth, and they got tremendous value at all their picks.
Yeah, well, it's the Browns. I would put it as one of those teams where, especially offensively, I think you can make a case that offensively, they were just as well rounded coming back into this season than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they had the best offensive line last year until injuries kind of hit them in the playoffs. But then you still have a very diverse receiver set. You got Baker Mayfield, who I think is a great leader coming out of the backfield, and you also do have the running back tandem with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt as well. They did need to have some depth in the defensive side, and that's where I agree with you. Getting Greg Newsome as your first pick cornerback, I think he can do a phenomenal job. It can eventually be a lockdown corner for them. Jeremiah or Mo fall all the way down to him. You have to take him, especially as the best player available. They did also need linebacker help as well, in my opinion. That was one of the things I think in that Chiefs game where they showed a little bit of vulnerability was in the linebacker position.
Yeah. Being able to cover running backs out of the backfield was something that they struggled with.
Yeah.
I mean, they showed on that 4th down play. Short yardage passing was one of their weaknesses last year.
Yeah.
But they do play a little bit more of like an off coverage style. And so
But even then you get to Anthony Schwartz. You have Jabari Parker, and then as the receiver one, Austin Hooper. And I feel like I'm missing
Jabari Parker.
Not Jabari Parker, Devontae Parker, right?
No, that's the Dolphins. You mean Jarvis Landry.
That's who. Okay,
Yeah.
a former
I was
Dolphin.
like, Jabari Parker's a basketball player.
Yeah, a former Dolphin. I got a couple. I got the initials right, I think. Actually, I don't think I did either. But and then you have Austin Hooper as well, tight end. Like they're gonna have a lot of weapons, and
David Njoku and Odell Beckham, I think, is still signed through this season.
I think Odell Beckham's still signed. I mean, you look at this. Their offense was already pretty tough to stop. Like, man, I don't know how you're gonna stop this offense, and this defense is only going to get better, especially with these picks right here. So
well, then too, they also signed John Johnson III from L.A. And he was one of the best safeties in the league last year.
Yeah, and they did. And I believe they also did get Jadeveon Clowney right for deep. So you don't need much at him, but if Jadeveon Clowney can be half the person half the defensive end that he was, alongside Myles Garrett, I mean, that could be a nice resurgence for him.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, the Browns. On paper, the Browns are probably the most well-rounded team in the NFL, And I cannot believe I just said that because literally 3 years ago they picked first overall.
multiple times. I mean, they picked first
Yeah,
overall multiple times.
yeah, yeah. And so I think Baker made a huge step forward last year, and I think he's going to continue to improve.
Yeah,
I think he just had to get his sea legs under him in the NFL,
yeah,
and as well as the talent to catch up to him.
yeah.
But I mean, you look at their roster, and there's almost no holes.
There really isn't. Like, and that's what. So that is a Cleveland Browns. As I said at the beginning of this, is one of those teams where you put them up with the Buccaneers, the Colts, the Bills, the teams that have came in and got pretty well rounded, and
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to add some depth and maybe like some critique some holes, and try and find value in all of them. And man, I think they just hit the nail on the head on every single one. Even Tommy Togia. If you have him on the
Togiai.
interior, huh?
Togiai.
Togiai. My apologies, sir. With Tommy Togiai on the interior, and then you have Myles Garrett on the outside, and then Jadeveon Clowney can return to form. Like, that's
Yeah.
one hell of front line right there.
Yeah, and then you have Jeremiah Usu-Cormoa behind him with John Johnson, and then you have Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome on the edge. I mean, the Patriots play the Browns in 2021. I don't think the Patriots actually even really stand a chance. The only thing that can bring the Browns down is injuries and coaching.
Yeah.
But even if injuries happen, I think they're so deep that they can play through it, kind of like what they did in the end of last year with their offensive line. I'm blown away that in 3 years the Cleveland Browns have actually kind of made this type of resurgence, but they're good. Like, they are
Yeah,
very
they're really good. Yeah, I
Like,
mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing them play this year, and especially in their division. I mean, all the other teams I feel like are going the other way.
mhm.
Um, I and we're gonna get to the Ravens in a second, but they're and you're right when you think about it on paper. So I'm trying to think, and the AFC is so deep to begin with. Like, I mean, you get the Bills, the Chiefs, and then the Colts as well, and now the Browns. Those would be my four picks to win each division. I mean, that right there, that's a heck of an AFC divisional series weekend alone.
Yeah.
Then you get all the
Yeah.
other teams in their division as well.
Yeah, and I legitimately think the Browns are Super Bowl contenders. I mean,
I think
they
so.
were a play or two away from beating Kansas City to go to the AFC Championship game at Buffalo.
Yeah.
And so I think now that there's 17 games, they could win 13 of those 17 games, go 13-4.
Yeah. Well, and I also think too, the Browns are only going to get better, and the Chiefs I think are going to rescind a little bit.
Mhm.
I personally think, and I'm sure after this draft, after we're done with all the draft reviews, we'll do a Super Bowl prediction as a June whatever. But I mean the Browns are trending upwards. So
No, they definitely are. And for me, I lost my train of thought. For me, they also have the easiest schedule of the year, the easiest schedule of any of those four teams you just said: the Chiefs, Bills, Colts, Browns. They have the easiest schedule. So I really do think that they could go 13-4, 14-3, area. And so,
And to be honest, we haven't said this since the '80s, but let's say they are the number one seed. I don't want to go up to Cleveland in January to play a playoff game.
No, not at all.
I mean,
especially too, COVID restrictions. Will be about 2 years removed almost from COVID. I mean, that will be I think that stadium can hold 75,000 people. That'll be 75,000 strong.
And then another 2 million outside the stadium.
Oh yeah, that would be insane. And so for me, I think the Browns are probably the best team on paper. I mean, it's crazy to say, but but yeah, I don't really have that much else besides wow to say about the Browns. So
yeah, that win I think would put hypothetically. I think that win for Cleveland would be better than the Cavs win from a couple years ago.
Oh,
because the Browns have been so abysmally bad Not just over the like the Cavs after LeBron left and then he came back. It was only a couple years where they sucked, but then when LeBron comes back, then they're good again. Then they also have Kyrie and Kevin Love as well. But the Browns as an organization have sucked for so ever since the new franchise started.
Yeah.
Like that would be the biggest win.
I know our family would be
Oh my
beyond
God,
ecstatic. We
that
would have to go up
that'd be
there
insane.
and hang out with
Maybe
them.
that'd be one of
That'd
those where, like, as a Falcons fan, it's like I'd want to win. Obviously, like it was the Falcons Browns, but if they lost, but it was the Browns, like, oh, that would be pretty sweet to see.
yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet to see.
But anyways, as cool as that would be to see, we have a podcast that we're still working on
Unfortunately,
right now.
So
Yeah.
sorry, we started daydreaming there a little bit.
Yeah. Had to snap out of it. But